feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
How's it going, y'all? Back at you with another episode of Off the Wall Baseball Podcast here at Total Apex Media. My name's Chris, alongside my co-host Brandon. How you doing today?
I'm doing good on this Easter Sunday. We had some good action today in the baseball world as well on Easter. Fun times. It was a fun day so far. Let's get into it.
Absolutely. Alrighty, yeah, there's a lot to cover even in just the span of a week. You know, that's what I love about baseball is because there's games every single day for every single team. You know, it's very easy to have all sorts of news, right? So we're going to start off with some injury news here. Just get people caught up on a little bit of injury news really quickly. Obviously, Jordan Lawler for Arizona has a broken wrist. Mookie Betts has a hamstring injury that he just went on the IL for. We also have Juan Soto injury. It sounds like he dodged a bullet there. I know there was some concerns he was going to be out for a while. It sounds like the MRI shows that he's doing a little bit better than they had hoped. So hopefully we'll only miss a little bit of time. We're not quite sure there yet, but certainly dodged a bullet there. And then Justin Verlander is also headed to the IL. So some fairly big names there heading to the IL. What are your thoughts on any of those, Brandon?
The Verlander one is a blow for sure for Detroit's pitching rotation. The Mookie Betts one, it could be a catastrophic one for the Dodgers. Because I'm not. Is he mainly just playing shortstop for him right now?
Yeah, he was their starting shortstop.
Okay,
yeah.
So that's the thing. They don't really have anyone behind them that can fill shortstop really well defensively, and that's why they had Mookie at short starting last year because they didn't have anyone they were confident in to play short, and now it's I'm not 100% sure who's replaced them in the lineup at short, and everything like that so far. Granted, they just still won today 8-6, and even though the game was in a rain delay in DC, and everything, but it's just it's gonna be a test for the Dodgers early on without Mookie Betts for the next 4 to 6 weeks.
Right. Absolutely.
I
think that's the one I wanted to highlight too. I mean, granted, the Dodgers obviously are such a loaded team as a whole that the loss of Mookie in a nutshell isn't a terrible thing, in the sense of they have enough offense, they have enough, pitching to get around it. But the problem is the position specifically that he plays. The reason he was shifted to shortstop was because they really didn't have any other, true high caliber player to fill in there. That's why they were using him there and sort of challenging him in that regard. So I do think that's a big loss. Lawler, it's sad to me more than that. I think the Diamondbacks can weather that storm in terms of the loss, but it just, that kid's been through a lot, and he was finally going to have an opportunity this year. He sort of had, they've been working their way into figuring out a way to get him into the lineup, and get him in full time because they're sort of crowded in that infield already, and he was getting a chance into, one game in, break his wrist or whatever, that's an unfortunate situation for sure. All right, they got another big piece of information actually. Links to, we actually talked about this last week, right? With the young players getting extended. And we were talking about who the next one was going to be. Well, as it turns out, it's Konnor Griffin. I'm not sure if I quite had that one as far as the extension on my bingo card, but he got called up and then immediately signed for a 9-year, $140 million deal. I give credit to Pittsburgh for that one. I think that's a fantastic thing. And you know what? Ben Cherington as a GM, I think, gets some hate, for the way he builds clubs. He was here with Boston before he went to Pittsburgh, and he did a good job rebuilding the farm system here in Boston. Obviously 2013 he won a championship with us, but then that was a sort of a strike lightning type of roster build there, where just everything came together all right. But I think he got a lot of hate for the fact that he was, a prospect building type of GM. And he's made some mistakes in Pittsburgh, there's no question, but I think by and large he's done a really good job dealing within the constraints that he has from that ownership group, and the lack of resources he has. He's really putting together something exciting there in Pittsburgh. And the fact that he's been able to lock up Konnor Griffin, who should be one of their main, superstars for the foreseeable future. You've got obviously O'Neal Cruz as a offensive superstar as well. You've got, a whole plethora of pitching that they're building there as well, that they could be somebody exciting, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the thing with Griffin, like to get into his actual weekend series against Baltimore, the start was great with like the first at bat getting the double, in the RBI, getting the first career hit and the RBI out of the way. But the rest of the weekend after that was 0 for 8. Not the greatest approach at the plate. Granted, he's just 19. Like we talked about last week, he's the first players since Soto to come up at that age. So it is, it is a tough proposition for the kid, and even major league pitching is different. So I think he'll bounce back. It'd be a decent hitter, but this weekend showed he was, antsy at the plate a little bit. I think even though Pittsburgh did sweep Baltimore, which we'll get into that a little bit here too with the walk-off too. That game, the walk-off yesterday was kind of a blow, because you're up. Baltimore was up 2-1, and you get outscored 2-0 in the 8th and 9th inning. It's not a good look. To lose that opportunity, and that falls back to the offense of Baltimore not getting clicking. I think once Jackson Holiday comes back, we might see some click in the lineup again at second. More better lineups from Alvarez. I think once Jackson Holiday gets back, once he comes back, I think it should flow different. I think Jack Holiday will be either the leadoff or where Blaze is. Even though Blaze has been good defensively, his offense has not been great either. And the lack of production at in some of the infield spots right now, like including Gunnar and Pete, which those are the two guys you don't want to not have any production of from either. So when you look at those details, it's not great right now for Baltimore after this weekend series against Pittsburgh. They did end up salvaging the game against Texas. So this week was not the greatest week for the Orioles overall. This second week after winning the first series. But going back to Griffin, I think the kid's going to be great. It was smart for Pittsburgh to get the extension done, and when they did, we'll see what happens with him going forward the rest of the way.
Yeah, well, he follows a list of a lot of number one prospects that have been coming up lately, and have had some pressure on them to perform right away, right? Obviously Roman Anthony is the most recent one, and he's done well this year so far. Last year, he did well, but there was some question about the power hadn't been there yet, and so people were sort of saying he was a little bit underperforming expectation. Jackson Holiday, when he came up, sort of. There was some talk about him underperforming some of his expectations, right? We've seen it, obviously in Detroit, they had a few different players that had that issue, sort of underperforming expectation when they first came up, but I think the difference for Konnor Griffin here, besides the fact he's 19, so he's obviously the youngest, of that whole group. I mean, Roman Anthony was young at 21 coming up, but Konnor Griffin's 19. So he's going to develop into it. And he only played 6 games at AAA. So for all intents, or 7 games, I believe it was. So for all intents and purposes, he's practically coming from AA straight up, right? Yeah. But what I think benefits him in terms of the pressure is the fact that he's in Pittsburgh, right? Right now, Pittsburgh's already, again, very early into the season, but they're outperforming expectations, right?
Yeah.
They were expected to sort of be at the bottom of that NL Central. So anything they do beyond that, in a way, is, in my opinion, sort of gravy, right? It's sort of icing on the cake. So he has the flexibility to not have to be that guy immediately, right?
Yeah.
And he's in a little bit of a smaller market, a little bit of a low pressure market in comparison to, for example, a Boston or Anthony Volpe in New York, having the pressure of automatically having to be the guy at shortstop, right? There's a little bit less pressure there in the market as well. So hopefully it gives him a chance to, work out some of those kinks in a little bit of a lower stakes type of situation. And hopefully, that helps him through as well. Really quickly, just a couple other notes as far as the news sort of piece. Toronto added a couple pieces this week, right? They added Patrick Corbin as depth for their pitching staff, and then they also picked up Tyler Fitzgerald, who was DFA'd by the Giants, I believe, the other day as well, to add depth there. And we highlighted them a little bit last week as one of the teams that has some injury trouble, starting especially a little bit in that rotation. And so Patrick Corbin is obviously there to, hopefully add some depth there. But what do you think about those moves? I know they aren't flashy moves, per se, but
I think Corbin has to eat innings better. And when you look at, for example, to bring up Baltimore again, Chris Bassett, who has been awful the first two starts for Baltimore, Corbin can't be what Chris Bassett is right now for Toronto with their rotation issues in the bullpen, pressure on the bullpen, and stuff like that. Because if he turns out and he doesn't have the stuff to stay level and get you at least 5-6 innings every outing, it's going to be a long road until you Savage and Barrios and all those guys come back for the Blue Jays. Because you're seeing it right now with the Orioles, but their issue is not necessarily the bullpen's performance, but them having to throw the bullpen a lot of innings because of guys like Bassett not going this 4 or 5 innings that they're supposed to be throwing. So there's that too. So that's the Corbin side of it. I think Fitzgerald brings a good extra bat off the bench. I don't think Fitzgerald is going to be the most flashiest signing for the Blue Jays, but it just, like you said, provides depth. So
yeah, for sure, exactly. That's what I figured with both of these pieces. If either of them are being relied on for anything more than what you said, chewing up innings or being depth pieces, then Toronto is probably going to be in some trouble. But they did need to bolster that depth with some of the injuries that they've been sustaining, and so adding some legitimate major league talent that have done it before. They've been there before. They've had success at the major league level. I think that can only benefit Toronto, and like you said, especially with bullpen, because the Red Sox have a similar issue right now, right? Their bullpen has been struggling, and a lot of that does come just like yours, with some of our starting pitching struggling and having to rely on that bullpen, a lot early on.
Exactly.
For sure. And speaking of another team in the AL East, there's a couple things to note with the Yankees right now. So they've obviously they currently have, and we'll talk about this in the standings, the best record in the league, right? But they actually set a record earlier this week with their pitching staff, which wasn't necessarily expected right away, right? Especially with the injuries to two of their top players, right? But they actually, their 3 runs through the 5 games that they allowed is the best since 1943. I believe it was the Cardinals were the last team to do that in 1943, which is pretty impressive and incredible. And on top of that, they have Luis Gil coming back, which some Yankees fans might say isn't going to be a bolster to the rotation, but any asset, any depth there is going to be beneficial for them. So they're looking really good on the pitching side. And obviously offense, we kind of already always knew the Yankees are going to be known for their offense. But that was sort of exciting to see. And then there was another record that I actually didn't even put on here, that has to do with the Dodgers. And I think you mentioned it a little bit earlier. They had a walk-off win again, or come from behind win today. They came back from six down or to beat the
The Nats.
the Nationals. Yeah, exactly. But that's their fifth come from behind victory already this season, which you could say is good, but it's also interesting because, you know, the fact that the Dodgers have had to come back so much already, you know, maybe isn't what they want. I know we talked about Roki Sasaki a little bit, I believe, as well, and he struggled again today. Different issues today than usual. You know, he was finding the strike zone today, but he was just getting hammered off of it.
Yeah.
You know, so and we talked about that, giving him a little bit more time, but at some point something's got to give, right, with him. Go ahead.
Dave Roberts might have to make the move again to either option him again or put him in the bullpen eventually. If it just keeps on not being the Roki Sasaki that they're promised, you know, that they were promised when they signed him. Now, that's the thing. The thing was, when Yamamoto and Sasaki were coming to the league, everyone was more hyped about Sasaki than Yamamoto. Yeah. But the thing is, Yamamoto has been one of the best pitchers in baseball since he's come from Japan to America. And Sasaki, on the other hand, had a great playoff run in the bullpen, but as a starter, it has been horrendous to say the least. Not the greatest. And as we talked about last week, it might be time just to keep making him a bullpen guy, either eighth or ninth inning type of guy. And it will help the Dodgers bullpen out.
It would.
Because the thing, they don't have the greatest pull, even though they have the great roster with the lineup and the pitching, the actual starting rotation, their bullpen can get to their bullpen.
Yeah.
If you're in the game and you have to, you know, you're in a higher scoring game and you have to use a bullpen, I would rather have Milwaukee's bullpen than the Dodgers bullpen. I agree. That's just where I'm at right now. And
I agree. That's sort of their soft underbelly in a way, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know? I agree with that. And I agree with the Sasaki thing. And the thing about Sasaki when he came over, I think what people were excited about was his youth, you know?
Yep.
So for Sasaki, it was kind of like he was sort of a little bit of an unknown. Like there was a ceiling that could get higher there, right? I think what made Yamamoto in a way less exciting was he was more polished coming over, but you kind of knew what you were gonna get, you know. So there wasn't a lot of extra ceiling there per se, you know. Like he already kind of reached, you know, the expectations were there of what he was gonna be because he's developed. You know, I think people like to get excited over potential, but the fact of the matter is Yamamoto was clearly always going to come over more polished, right?
Yeah.
You know, in a way, Sasaki probably should have come over and been in AAA instead of at the majors and had time to develop down there. And that didn't really happen, you know, the way that it should have, right? But people also forget Yamamoto's not old. He's was only 25 when he came over.
25 right now.
Like he was. Yeah, you know, it's not like he was like 30 coming over or something like that.
Yeah.
So I always liked Yamamoto better personally.
Yeah.
And we're seeing the results of that. And then the last thing I wanted to cover before we move on was the excitement that Jo Adell brought last night, right? And you know, Jo Adell, speaking of number one prospects that weren't panning out, right?
Yeah.
You know, Jo Adell has really had an up and down career so far and really, you know, not lived up to the hype so far for the Angels. He's had moments of brilliance, moments where he's flashed, oh, he might be turning it around, and then he struggled. But really what had carried him forever was defense, and his defense had been inconsistent leading into this. And then he has a night like last night, for those who don't know, robbing 3 separate home runs against, and not just like, kind of like he was up against the wall, like he was leaping over the yellow line for 2 of them. He dove into the stands down the foul line, down the first baseline, you know, at the foul pole for the 3rd one, right? And I mean, these were not like little plays here, you know, and in a 1-0 game, you know, it literally saved the game. You could argue Jo Adell single-handedly won that game for the Angels, right? Yesterday with the defense he had. You know, I mean, what do you think about that? I don't think that's the type of performance we're going to see, you know, for a long time again, really.
Well, that's the thing, too, with Adell. Adell is coming off a season where he had, like, he hit a lot of home runs last year for the Angels. So he's coming off his best season offensively, and like you said, his defense was inconsistent. But last night, when the Angels were in a 1-0 game for the longest time, robbed Raleigh for the first one, which was still an impressive catch over right center field, where the wall there, you used to have to hit it over that big scoreboard, but now they adjusted it with the yellow line. Makes for more excitement opportunities. Because in that stadium before they adjusted the yellow line, for those that don't know, if anything was hitting over that wall in right center field, there was no excitement home run robbery opportunities, obviously, because the player crushed it. Now with them adjusting the yellow line, you have to be like, okay, if that's going over right center field and enough height over that wall, like to hit the scoreboard, it's a home run. So you have to think about that as a right fielder or center fielder out there now in Angel Stadium. And Jo Adell was the most impressive defensive performance. And I didn't watch the game in full. I saw the highlights of the 3 catches. And when you look at all 3 of them, that he got the right jump at the right time on all 3 of them. Timed his jump well on all 3 of them. The coordination to do that is also tough. But the one that is impressive the most is falling, like how he fell over the right field wall to catch the ninth inning, to catch the ball. And that's also been the most controversial one. I don't know if you've seen this, but people have been like, if you fall over the wall, that should be a home run, not out. But at the same time, that's been the rule for years, is you catch it in the field of play and go over, it's an out.
Well, and the key, from what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong with that one, but I believe the key to that was that his feet were on the ground still at the time that the ball hit his glove. And then they left the field of play and he fell in. And that's why they called it an out. Like, had he left the field of play before the ball was in his glove, then it would have been a home run, is my understanding. And if I remember correctly, I believe the Angels broadcasters were actually giving him credit for that, for having the presence to, sort of keep his feet down as long as humanly possible in that, and having the guts to keep, stay on the ground as long, like take the full force of that impact once he did hit the wall, was sort of part of what the impressiveness was in that play too, I believe.
Yeah, and it's the thing too. I wanted to throw, since we're talking about Jo Adell's performance last night, obviously Denzel Clark earlier in the week, as you have here, had another one against the Braves. He's been robbing home runs since he's come up last year. Like, just look at the one against the Angels last year. That catch was phenomenal, left center. What are some of your favorite all-time home run robberies? I can give you a couple of mine real quick. Obviously, John Mayberry Jr. When he was on the Rangers. Back in I think 2007, where he did the 360 pirouette. That one was amazing. Obviously, Denzel's last year against the Angels makes my list. That catch was just filthy. That was a filthy catch from Mr. Clark. The one against the Braves was kind of similar to that, but it wasn't as dramatic with the glove and everything over the fence. So Denzel Clark's against the Angels last year is number my second one, but my all-time favorite is actually in the playoffs. Indy Chavez against the Cardinals. That one will always be the one for me when I think of home run robberies. That the moment that it was occurring, how the glove kind of how he had to acrobatically go over the wall and get that ball in Old Shea Stadium. Didn't climb it. Didn't have to use the wall to climb it. He just basically jumped up, got it, and brought it back in an NLCS. Now, granted, the Cardinals still won that series and everything, but that catch by Indy Chavez will go down as one of the greatest playoff catches of all time. So those are my 3. I can name like plenty more. I mean, but we don't have that much time, but we can probably do that for another content video.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I'll just really quickly highlight one that pops into my head when you mentioned that too, is the Mark Burley perfect game.
Yes, the main guy, right?
Yeah. That was impressive, not just for the play, but how much it literally saved Burley's perfect game, right?
Yeah.
And you don't get perfect games very often,
Yeah.
So that's one I wanted to highlight as well, really quickly.
That's also a good one to highlight.
Yeah.
If y'all want that video of us naming home run robberies and doing a tier list or something like that, just let us know and we'll record it and do it. I love to do that because the home run robbery to me is just as flashy as the home run itself.
It is. I agree.
It
Sometimes more exciting in a way, right?
Yes, exactly. It makes baseball fun, and I'm glad that Jo Adell had that performance last night and gets us to thinking about the home run robbery a little bit more too, because it's important. And the weird thing is with the analytics, I don't know how it affected the defensive run saved or anything like that, the metrics of it, but I would have to think that he have to have a high defensive run save metric for just those 3 catches alone, because it saved 3 runs. Like off the scoreboard.
Yeah, like you said, to do it in the moments he did too. The quote clutch factor in a way has to factor into some of these deeper analytics as well, right? Because he, 8th inning and 9th inning with 2 of them. I mean that's crazy too, and adds even more immense pressure to the situation.
Right? Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Definitely. No, I love home run robberies. I agree with you. I think that I find them more exciting than home runs a lot of the time. All right. So we've also had individual breakouts over the last week that I wanted to sort of highlight. Some of them we talked about last week, but just some impressive individual performances here. Shea Langeliers, the catcher, as everybody predicted, the catcher that's leading home runs in the AL West, right? Totally predicted to be Langeliers and not Rally, right? But he's actually leading the entire league right now, tied with DeLauder with 5 home runs out of him. He's pretty much been one of the only bright spots for the Sacramento Athletics, whatever we're calling them right now. The no home athletics. I don't know what we're calling them.
Whatever we're calling the athletics. Yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I obviously mentioned Chase DeLauder has 5 home runs. He's actually leading the league in a slugging percentage right now out there for Cleveland. So he's having quite, he hasn't slowed down at all over the last week. And then Jordan Alvarez, as far as stats, this season offensively, leading the league in OPS. I believe he leads in, obviously it would make sense, on base percentage. But the fact that he's not just getting on base, obviously by again, it's 2 weeks in, so you're not going to see somebody with a 1.475 OPS by the end of the year. But I mean, that's just like that's video game numbers there for Jordan Alvarez. And he's always somebody that puts up great numbers when he's healthy, right? And that's a big caveat for him is when he's healthy. And the Astros are going to need his bat for sure. Right. In terms of offense, as far as just stats, like season stats so far, is there anything else that has impressed you on the offensive side?
For me, offensively, we highlighted the ones that have been like DeLauder and Langeliers and Jordan. I'm glad Jordan's bounced back from his lackluster 2025 so far. Early in 26. I thought Jordan was a disappointment last year, to say the least, for Houston. But now he's found his swing again. He's healthy. That's what matters the most. I think he wasn't healthy last year, so that's what cost him his his timing to be off a little bit. I felt like last year. So this year, the be on base, having the ability to hit the ball with their fence, Jordan has been one of the best players in the league, but I have to go Murakami here. Being the fastest Japanese player to ever hit 4 home runs, and that's the thing. A lot of the guys that have had success from Japan have been more of the content guys, like Ichiro and guys like that. And so now Murakami coming over and slugging the 4 home runs for a White Sox team that's been what we expected of them for the most part. Even though they're 3-0 to start their first time since 2016, I think it was, that they started 3-0 at home. So Chicago has got a talent that they could play with if they wanted to just continue the rebuild like they've been doing. in Murakami, or if they want to try to actually win for once, actually going to be a guy they can build around for the next couple of years. So it's good to see Murakami doing well because he had a lot of expectations, especially after his 2023 World Baseball Classic, where a lot of people grew to know of Murakami. Didn't have the greatest WBC this year, I don't think, from what I've heard, for Team Japan this year. But him having the ability to hit 4 home runs is good. It's a good sign.
Absolutely.
For Chicago fans for the next couple months to come. So I think that's the one offensive I wanted to highlight is Murakami's ability. Murakami.
I agree. And I think there's going to be a lot of teams that are going to regret not signing him, right? I mean, he was somebody that really should have been one of the bigger names coming over this season. He sort of flew on. I don't know if he got devalued or what really happened in the market, but obviously he was out of nowhere. He ended up going to the Chicago White Sox, and it could be he really wanted to go there. We don't know, obviously, all the details of everything, what the agents talk about, what the front offices talk about. So I can only, go based off what we saw, but it was certainly a surprise. And I had that signing highlighted as probably arguably, if not the most underrated signing of the offseason, certainly one of the most underrated signings. And it's good to see him, it panning out so far, and who knows what it would look like if he was on a different team. I mean, there's so many what ifs, but I certainly could say from a Red Sox perspective, who needed a first baseman, I would love to have his bat in that
lineup right now. Yeah. Have his bat in this lineup with Roman Anthony and Duran and all these guys that just put up 6 today. Like they put up runs today. They just blew it.
You get one and you don't get the other, right? It's like, could you guys just pick a struggle? Like, absolutely. Absolutely. And then a couple other ones I threw on here really quickly. Andy Pages having more hits than he does strikeouts right now is that's hard to do even in a short sample size, right? He already has 15 hits, so he's sort of broke out. There was a time last year where it was debatable whether he was gonna even be in the major leagues anymore, right? And Dave Roberts sort of gave him the chance to play it out. And obviously, when you're the Dodgers, you have that ability, because you've got so many other superstars. You can hide somebody who's struggling a little bit a lot easier than you can on a team where the whole team is struggling. So they had the luxury to do that. But boy, he's making Roberts look good now, right? He's had quite, and defensively he's been good too. And then
I think the confidence of him making the catch of last year's postseason, robbing the Blue Jays of a world championship. I think that confidence has turned into 2026 success for Pages right now, which is great to see for the Dodgers. Because that's the thing. They don't have to have Mookie in the outfield anymore. They can have Mookie in the infield when he's healthy because they got 3 studs out there that can actually play defense. So especially when you look at Pages, they still have, Kike Hernandez, and they can have Oscar Hernandez and Wright with his arm. So the flexibility the Dodgers have, it just continues to show. And when you look at Pages, it's more hits than strikeouts, like you said. It's a great feeling to have. So
100%.
Another one too that talking about DeLauder a little bit more is the kid is like that's the thing. When he came up in the postseason last year, didn't have the best offensive output for the Guardians team. Granted, it's the postseason, the pressure ramps up and you have to face a guy like Skubal in that game, in that wild card series and stuff like that. And the Detroit rotation was just, too much for that Guardians offense at that time. But now it seemed like DeLauder has taken that experience from the postseason and getting called up for the postseason run and turned it into one of the best openings for a rookie that we've had in 2026. So it's good for him. I like the kid. As a JMU alum, I like to shout out my other JMU alum that actually do bright stuff in athletics. And it's just fun to see another JMU guy performing to the expectations that he was set out to do, and I hope he continues. Great to see. But if to get to some of the pitching, I'll go ahead and start with Gausman. Mr. Gausman has been in the league for a while, and the fact that he's dominating with the K's right now is crazy. It's crazy because I remember Gausman used to struggle for teams like Baltimore and other teams but now he's found a home. So it's great to see Kevin Gausman doing his thing. So
absolutely, no, I agree. Because even when he was with San Francisco, and that's sort of where he rebuilt his career a bit. It wasn't. He's not known as being a K machine.
No.
Even in his best moments. So the fact that he's leading the league right now in strikeouts, I believe he has, what is it, 21 already?
I think so.
Off the top of my head, yeah. I mean that's impressive, and it's something. Obviously, we talked about the Blue Jays again with injuries. That's something that they have needed. And he's sort of he between him and Cease, obviously, they've been putting some things together there. Also Sandy Alcantara, coming off injury, he's a big portion of the reason why Miami is surprising early, right? He didn't have the best start. He had one mess start, but he threw a Maddox earlier this week, right? Complete game under 100 pitches, which, I mean, if there's one thing Sandy Alcantara does, right, it's he eats innings, and he's gonna eat innings for you. You don't take the ball from him. He's gonna go. He's very old school like that. In a day and age where starting pitchers are 5 and done, maybe 6 innings is considered like amazing for a starting pitcher. He goes 7, 8, 9 automatic at this point. Which is pretty impressive to see. But that's awesome. For him because he had. He's coming off of a not a great season either.
And he's also, I think he's also a guy in last year's trade deadline. He's probably backing at the conversation this year.
Absolutely.
Being that guy for sure. If he continues to have the success that he's had after this start, obviously with the Maddox, like you said, if he has that season where he's like one of the best options from Miami's rotation with Yuri Perez, they might not want to trade him, but at the same time, I think you can get something for and a contender that might need pitching come July will want to pay the premium this year, unlike last year when he was struggling. I don't think the teams wanted to pay for the premium last year. I think they'll pay for if he continues to be back to that all-star level that he was at a couple years ago. I think he will be the guy that has the option to be a trade deadline target once again. Also, too, when I was looking it up, you were right. Gausman has 21 Ks. Cease has 18. So those two guys alone have 39 strikeouts between them. Which is crazy. It's crazy that those two guys in the Toronto rotation have that many strikeouts right now. And
absolutely,
it's great for Cease. Coming off of the year in San Diego, and that he had, and then now going to Toronto in free agency, and being the guy, one of those guys in that rotation, and it just makes it more interesting when Savage and Barrios come back, because those two guys too, with those two guys and how Gausman and Cease are pitching right now. Toronto might be a danger. Like we talked about, Toronto might be another back to the Toronto of last year, really quick. I know we got on here too, Shohei being Shohei with 222 scoreless innings and 30 games on base streak right now. Just Shohei being Shohei. He's just crazy.
Exactly. I mean, we just look at him, we're like, oh yeah, of course. But you forget, like, this is so impossible to do. I mean, and he just makes it look so easy.
Exactly.
The numbers he puts up, it's unbelievable. Yeah. And to point out really quickly off your thought with Toronto, with their strikeouts, it's sort of a very interesting juxtaposition to what Boston did, because Boston took the exact opposite approach and really added a lot of contact style pitching to be their front of the rotation in Sonny Gray and Ranger Suarez.
Yep.
You know, and Mayo, you could argue, has always kind of been a contact pitcher too. And
Yep.
so far, that's had the exact opposite success rate, right? Boston's starting pitching has really been struggling, you know, and it just goes to show you a little bit, you know, in a league where strikeouts have become so prominent, you know, what a difference a strikeout, you know, duo can make, you know. And quickly also, again, AL East, just to highlight a little bit more, we already talked about the Yankees rotation, you know, the numbers they put up the first 5 games of the season, but you just look at, you know, their rotation. Both Max Fried and Cam Sittler have not had a single run given up, as far as I know, unless that changed today. I don't think it did at all. David Bednar is leading the league in saves. You know, I mean, you again, you're missing Garrett Cole, you're missing, you know, Carlos Rodon, Luis Gil is coming back. I mean, that's a scary rotation if Fried is doing what he's doing and Slittler. Oh my gosh, it's such way too many consonants in a row in that name. But if he continues to do what he was doing last year and building off his 2025, I mean,
Fried had 3 runs earned today.
Okay, so he has given up runs now. All right. But still, heck of a start for that rotation. Yeah. Right.
100%. The Yankees, like as we mentioned earlier, and as we'll get into more in depth here soon with the standings and everything like that, the Yankees are the best team in baseball right now, and it's not that crazy to think about the Yankees being the best team in baseball, but the fact that they're 7-1 and potentially going to go 8-1 as it is the top in the 8th right now in that Marlins game, and the Marlins do have runners on first and second as we're recording in this moment of time in this stream. The Yankees are up 4-3, but the Marlins are in a decent position with Jake Bird at the plate. So Jake Bird on the mound for New York and Conine at the plate. So it's an interesting perspective for the Marlins, who are a team right now that's one of the surprising teams, as we'll get into later with the NL East. And right now, so that's a fun series right now when you look at it too, with the Marlins and Yankees. And everything like that. And 2 of the losses, the Yankees won the first 2 games of the series, but in kind of dominant fashion. I think, and everything like that. Like when you look at the details of it, they won the first 2 games comfortably in the series, but Miami's making a tough game today. So we'll see what happens. Maybe we'll get a final update once we get to the standings of that game. But as any others, for me, I don't think there's many other stacks we can really go into. I mean, Bednar is probably the best closer right now, other than Mason Miller. I think Mason Miller. It goes Mason Miller, Diaz when he's on, and then either Bednar or Duran as closers. Those are my 4 guys that I would trust the most right now to get a save. I would trust Miller over anybody right now. The way he's been pitching the season so far, I think I would trust Mason Miller over anybody, to be honest with you. Because I don't know if you watched the Pitching Ninja, but he threw a 96-mile-an-hour changeup against Boston, and it tunneled away. Like that changeup looked like a sinker more so than a changeup, but it was like weird. His 100-mile-an-hour fastball, and it tunneled, and it looked the same, like about 20 feet away, or about 30 feet away from the hitter, and it just tunneled away from Yoshida. It's like, dang, if Mason Miller's got a 96-mile-an-hour changeup, it's
I know. It's over at that point. Yeah.
It's over for the league, man. So San Diego better keep him for a long time. But getting into, I know for the youth movement, I know, for the youth movement, we've talked about a lot of young guys already, and we still haven't talked about a lot of other young guys too, like Pete Crow Armstrong, Gunnar Henderson, guys like that who have not been. I know Gunnar hasn't been what Gunnar is supposed to be yet in 2026, but I think sometimes Gunnar has these times, where he tries to do too much at the plate. And I think, he hit one today off the bat, and Ryan O'Hearn made a great play in right field. I thought it was going to be a triple, or off the bat, I thought either A, it was going to be die at the wall, or for a home run and O'Hearn can get there, or it was hit on a line or a rope where if O'Hearn doesn't get there, he could get the third. I thought it was going to be where in PNC is that off the right field wall and that the right center field corner meets. It was heading to that spot where it's tough for outfielders sometimes to track it and get the ball off the wall and stuff. Mm-hmm. And I thought off the bat it could have been a triple, but O'Hearn made a great kind of like he jumped for it, didn't make the catch, and it just fell in his glove. It's just how baseball is sometimes, and when you look at that stuff like that. But yeah, obviously they're getting into some of these rookies and stuff like that. I mean, DeLauder is going to be my answer for that. Like, I didn't expect this from DeLauder right away. Like 5 home runs, leading the league in slugging. I thought he was going to have maybe a 2-3 home run start, kind of like struggle a little bit here and there, but getting off to a 5 home run start in your first actual Major League Baseball, full season, like it's crazy to think about for DeLauder. And then some of the other guys too, like Roman Anthony, who's been playing well for Boston, even though Boston's been struggling. You got him. You got Griffin coming up, even though he was struggling, as we talked about earlier. It's just great to see the young guy coming up finally for Pittsburgh and bring some excitement back to that team, from the Andrew McCutchen days. It's great to see, like watching that double he had. It's so exciting to see that. And also another guy too that I want to highlight is Beavers for the Baltimore Orioles. He's had a good season. And also could be a sneaky AL Rookie of the Year candidate as well. For the O's. I know he's not. He hasn't been Beavers, or he hasn't been DeLauder kind of astronomical start. But Beavers has been one of the most consistent hitters when he's been in the lineup for Baltimore. Right now, he has had a home run this year. I can pull up his stats at the moment real quick and give you some of his. So he's had 26 player appearances, 8 hits, a double, a home run, 4 RBIs, for a 3.08 average. So Beavers is making an argument for a Rookie of the Year really easily for the Baltimore Orioles right now. So that's a player we haven't mentioned on here yet. That one I wanted to shout out personally to get some shine on this show. So
absolutely. And I actually had a couple of these names on the other slide, but I decided to save them here. But Sal Stewart, out for the Cincinnati Reds. He had already had a pretty decent thing going last year when they made the playoffs, right? But he's actually got a higher walk rate than a strikeout rate right now, a 20% walk rate right now out there in Cincinnati. Absolutely incredible. He's batting 400 as well. If he's batting 400 and a 20% walk rate, that'll play anywhere. Obviously, that'll cool down a little bit, but he's been nothing short of spectacular. McGonigal in Detroit, another one that's had quite a nice start to the season. He's got as many walks as he does strikeouts as well. That's what with young players coming up, you want to see that they have that, that they're managing their strikeout rate, right? That's the one thing that Murakami's been struggling with, is we always knew he was going to strike out a lot.
Yeah, he's going to strike
out a lot right now. He's going to have to get that under control a little bit to maintain some of the numbers he's been seeing so far, but that's what I like to see out of guys like Stewart and McGonigal is, that they're walking and they're not really striking out. DeLauder's another one that's striking out a bit and pretty much walking none. Not at all. But he's another one, but you kind of knew that was going to happen. That's never been his game, but you'd like to see a little bit more walking and a little bit less strikeouts from him.
Exactly.
As well. But JJ Weatherholt has been sort of overlooked out there in St. Louis as well. He's having quite a season so far. And then another one that's been a big surprise is Liam Hicks, the catcher out of Miami as well, because they had Augustin Ramirez
Yes.
catcher last year, who was
Yeah.
sort of a surprise, right? Sort of a late blooming surprise for them. And
Right.
even was talked about as a trade chip in the offseason because there's so few decent offensive catchers out there, right? And now they've got another one already that they've got, I believe he has 4. I think it's 4 home runs already.
I think so. Yeah.
And had been having quite a nice start to his season, at least with power as well. So that's another guy to watch. I mean, just like I said, you could go up and down any roster in the majors, and you could find a young player, doing something for that team. It's very impressive, and that's just on offense, right?
Yeah.
If we look at the pitching, obviously we've got Andrew Painter, who
So 3 home runs for Hicks right now. So 3 home runs for Hicks.
Okay,
yeah, 3 home runs.
Great. Got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
But yeah, Andrew Painter, we've been waiting on for a while.
Oh yeah,
right? He was supposed to be up a few years ago, and then he had, he had Tommy John, and we've been sort of waiting for him to come back. But he started off.
Didn't he have a good start in his debut? I thought it was he struck out the first batter that I remember.
He has. Let me see. Yeah, he has 13.50 Ks per 9 right now. In 5 1/3 innings. So that breaks out to I think 7 Ks in 5 1/3 innings.
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
Right,
yeah.
7 or 8. Yeah, so he had a nice start right off the bat. We talk about he's not a rookie anymore. But in Milwaukee, oh my gosh, I can't pronounce his name. The kid that made the All-Star.
Yes,
Mizorowski.
Yeah, Mizorowski. Yeah.
He's been doing great again for Milwaukee.
Yeah, he's been phenomenal.
He sort of came out of nowhere. Bubba Chandler obviously didn't have a great start so far, but he's somebody that's an excitement. McLean, obviously for the Mets, is somebody that people are keeping an eye on. He's struggled a little bit, but has been pretty good overall. Like he's certainly been serviceable for the Mets, if nothing else. Sort of outperforming some of his metrics, but Connerly early for the Red Sox has started off well. He had a great end to last season. Amai, speaking of players coming over overseas, Amai has started off fairly well for Houston as well. Again, just you could go up and down this list, right? Is there anybody that sort of sticks out for you on the pitching side?
So for me, I would go with Yuri Perez. I know he's not like the rookie anymore. Like he's not one of these guys like Painter and Bubba Chandler and guys like that. But Yuri Perez to finally find his form and be one of those pitchers that you want, like that the Marlins were thinking he was. We've mentioned him the last couple shows now, and Yuri Perez for me is one of the best. I think that he's probably going to be one of the best dark horse candidates for the Cy Young Award this year. Now, if he stays healthy and keeps his hot start going, and I just find him interesting. I also find another one too. I mean, obviously Yamamoto is another still young pitcher, technically. He's coming from Japan and everything like that. I think he's another one. I know we all know what Yamamoto brings now, but as a baseball fan, but I just want to highlight like the fact that Yamamoto is still not being among the best pitchers of baseball on a regular basis. Like the thing everyone picks out Skubal and Skeens and Ohtani out of the hat more so than Yamamoto, in my opinion. I feel like Yamamoto is a better starter than Ohtani. And I love Ohtani.
I agree.
I just think Yamamoto has the better stuff of them too.
Yeah, he gets sort of drowned out there in Los Angeles, right? Because of the star power they have. And with Ohtani already there, I think a lot of people overlook Yamamoto. But he's just so automatic. That's what's great about him is, he might not put up the best numbers statistically compared to, a Skeens maybe or a Skubal, or even, potentially a Crochet or guys on that next tier. But what he does is he just takes that ball and it's just consistent time in and time out. Like it's so hard to, have a bad game out of him. You know,
Yeah.
we saw the first game of the year for Skeens. You know, he had a bad game, and obviously every pitcher is going to have a bad game once in a while. You know, but by and large, Yamamoto was about as automatic as you can get. I feel like, and that makes him in a way boring, I guess.
Yeah.
And I think that's why he sort of gets forgotten about. But
that's
I agree
the
with
crazy
you.
thing. I think that's the crazy thing about him getting forgotten about is the fact of the matter is too. I remember when he had the no-hitter in Baltimore last year when they were in Baltimore and he was having the no-hitter and he got, you know, I think it was Holiday that got the hit off him. I think it was a home run and ended a no-hitter. And that was the game Baltimore came back, ended up coming back and winning the game. That's when we were having bullpen concerns for the Dodgers, was that game. But that the thing of the matter of it is like Yamamoto in that game was so filthy and dominant throughout that game, and then he throws the one mistake to Holiday, and then the bullpen cost him the no decision and everything like that too. But I think if that game was finished as a no hitter last year, I think Yamamoto has a legit argument for the Cy Young last year, because of that. Because of the fact that I don't think there was a no hitter last year. I think that was the closest one that we had last year was that one. So I think too, like, or it might have been like one or two no hitters last year. I know it wasn't.
I think at the beginning of the season there may have been.
Yeah, it wasn't many no hitters last year, and
no,
that would have been one of the ones. That would have been one of the ones that could have happened. But I think too, like the fact that he finished behind Christopher Sanchez too in the Cy Young race last year, which is crazy in itself. And Christopher Sanchez is another young guy to highlight here, for sure, for the Phillies. So that we want to give praise to. So,
I mean, just really quickly, just to update you, the last year there were no hitters. It was the first season, and it looks like it was like decade.
Yeah.
Let me see. Yeah, it looks like 19. Yeah, it was like 1926 is the last time
there was no hitters.
Low. Yeah. So it's been a while for sure.
It has been.
Yeah. And then really quickly before we move on to standing, just did you have any other prospects or young players or anybody you're watching to see if they're going to join sort of this youth movement? Anybody you're excited to see get called up at some point this year?
I think for me, a guy in the Baltimore system, what is this dude? The North Carolina shortstop. Or now outfielder. Oh, shoot. Oh, gosh, I have to look him up now. I hate doing that. Honey. Hold on.
I'm trying to remember who you're talking about.
He had a good spring for the Orioles. He had like 4 straight home runs in his first 4 at bats. No. Hold on. I hate doing this.
I hear you.
Vance Honeycutt. That's who it was. I have his name on the top of my head all the time. But yeah, Vance Honeycutt is one of the guys I can't wait to see. Now I think it's just tough in that Baltimore system right now for him because you got Gunnar and you got guys like that ahead of him in the packing order. And he might be a guy that they trade in the future to get back in contention or something like that. But Vance Honeycutt I watched him in that tournament, in the NCAA tournament, and before that 2024 season, he was raking the ball, and you saw it in spring training a little bit. Their first 4 bats were home runs, so he can swing the bat. So there's one guy I want to keep your eyes out on, obviously. And he's I think he's in AA right now anyway, so it's not like you're going to see him for a while.
Yeah.
But that's one guy for sure. Obviously, you got. I mean, there's some other prospects out there too. I mean, my main one was Konnor Griffin, and you finally got to see him up in the majors. That was my main prospect that you get to see coming up. For me, A lot of the other ones I just don't know enough about, like prospect wise.
I
Like
hear that.
I know some of them. I just don't know all. And there's another prospect too. There's a 6'8" relief pitcher, I think, for the Baltimore Orioles right now. That's intriguing. I think he might be on the MLB roster already or something like that. And it's not Tyler Wells. There's another one. I think he's a lefty. In the system that they have. So it's, there's some prospects out there that intrigue me. But it's just, I think Konnor Griffin is probably the one that was close to getting called up that I was keeping my eye on, and he's already called up. So
yeah, absolutely. I have a couple I'm going to highlight. Well, on the Red Sox side, we don't necessarily have any prospects that are that close to getting called up outside of Peyton Toll. Obviously, at some point is going to be back up. But I'm very interested to see what the Red Sox end up doing with Christian Campbell. Obviously, because he's one of those players that got one of those extensions last year very early when he was looking great to start the season, and he kind of fell apart after that. And we haven't really heard from him since. And I'm very interested to see where they end up going with him. Outside of our team, Max Clark.
Yes, that's the one. That's another one. That's another one for Detroit. It's just I don't know where they're gonna put him because McGonagall, like you said with McGonagall, like he's an outfielder too, and it's like it's a rough. When you have like a full stack talented outfield like Detroit does, like I don't know where you're gonna put Max Clark right now. So that's one thing.
He's had success already in AAA too. So at some point he's gonna force the issue, I think, and that's a good problem to have too, right? If you're Detroit, and then a couple other ones, I would say Cole Emerson for the Mariners, is an interesting one to keep an eye on as well at shortstop. Speaking of more young shortstops coming up, right, especially if Seattle struggles a bit or continues to struggle a bit and wants, sort of a young player
take over JP Crawford's spot.
Exactly. It's a bit of a spark for them. And then I'm trying to think of his name. Oh, Waldschmidt. For Detroit. I mean, not Detroit, the D-backs. Arizona. He's another one that would be interesting because I thought he was one that would make it out on the roster out of spring training. And he didn't. He was cut pretty early, actually. And he had a heck of a spring training. He's doing well already to start the season in AAA. And now with Lawler hurt and down for a substantial period of time, it'll be interesting to see if Arizona ends up pulling the trigger because they have not been afraid to call up young players even without a set spot for them.
Right? Just look at the Blaze Alexander situation that Arizona did, and now they traded him to the Baltimore Orioles this past offseason.
Exactly. And then one other guy pitching, Schultz for the White Sox.
Yes.
But what's interesting with that situation, obviously, is they don't have to do anything. They're not in contention, so they could very well keep him down for the whole season and sort of try to keep control for him for an extra year. So I don't know if we'll see him come up, but if he does, he's going to be electric, and he's going to be their next. They had first Sale, then Crochet, and now obviously Schultz would be another interesting one to throw into the mix. So certainly lots of young players to be excited for.
That's the thing about 2026. The youth movement is here, and it's finally we still have Judge, we still have Ohtani, and guys like that. They have been around for a while. Mike Trout having his best season in a while. Mike Trout. To shout out Mike Trout real quick, Jordan, Jose Altuve, guys like we still have some of those stars that been around for a long time, but we got a lot of fresh faces and they're making impacts, and you just have to find them. And that's the great thing about baseball. It's so easy to break out it's not easy to break out because hitting in baseball is the toughest thing to do. In sports, 100%. But at the same time, it's so fun when these guys break out and have, great seasons. So let's get into the standings. I know we don't have the standings pictured here, but we can talk about the Yankees. We've been talking about the Yankees all show. Right now, they're down, though, to the Marlins. The Marlins had a 4-run eighth inning to take the lead. So I was keeping tabs on that while we were while we were talking about some of the other stuff. They had a 4-run eighth to take the lead. I think we're in the bottom of the eighth now. Still 7-4, I think it is. Yeah, 7-4, 2 outs in the bottom of the eighth.
Okay.
So as we're getting into this,
Can't say I'm heartbroken for the Yankees there.
No, but yeah, but a 4-run eighth inning is not the greatest sign for the Yankees bullpen, to say the least.
It is not, and I've always found that bullpen to be a little overrated. Even Bednar, because as good as he looks sometimes, he has these stretches where he just falls apart. Obviously, he wasn't involved in this one at all. He's been about as automatic as you can be to start the season. But something about that Yankees bullpen, no matter who they're trotting out there, doesn't scare me in the way that some other bullpens scare me. So, but
yeah, right now the Yankees are looking like they're going to be brought down to 7-2 club with the Dodgers and the Brewers. So those three have 7 wins. Everyone else is like 6 wins or below. The only other 4 teams that have 6 wins are the Mets, Braves, Astros, and Indians and Guardians. Sorry, I almost said Indians. That will happen from time to time as I grew up with that team.
Oh, I know.
But everyone else is like 5 wins or 4 wins right now. It's around, around 500 or below. Obviously we got I forgot. No, there's a couple other teams with 6.
There's a couple more too. Yeah,
I forgot about
Cincinnati's at 6-3. Pittsburgh 6-3.
Yeah,
Braves are 6-4.
Yep.
Obviously, if Miami holds here, they'll be 6-3.
Yeah. Which is the surprise NL East leader right now. And I think that Braves game just updated. They were 6-3 earlier on the slab. So I think that just updated to 6-4. So as that game went final. So it's just crazy right now. A lot of the teams are in the middle of the pack here. The Angels are 5-5. Seattle, who we thought were going to be the best team in the AL West, is 4-6 to start the year.
Yep.
In the first 2 weeks. So
there's been a lot of underwhelming performances to start the season, right?
Yeah.
Seattle is one of those teams that stands out to me. Detroit, probably I expected to start off a little bit better than they have. I mean, they haven't been awful at 4-4, but they haven't been great either.
They had a tough first couple. I think they had to go to LA to play the Dodgers. I think they had to play the Padres too out west in their first couple. So it is a tough preposition to go to those 2 teams for 2 of your first series, especially the Dodgers. But and expect to come out like above 500. Granted, Detroit is still going to be the favorite in that division.
Yeah.
My disappointment out of that division, to be honest, is Kansas City at 4-5 right now. I mean, they're not the worst team right now, but at 4-5, you would have thought Kansas. I thought you would have been like a better spot as a Royals fan. If I'm a Royals fan, I'm concerned right now because you have Pasquantino who come off that WBC run of Italy and Caglione. Those guys with that Italy team that were hitting in the WBC and now aren't really doing that much. When you look, I'm going to go ahead and while I'm looking at it, I'll go ahead and look at the Kansas City Royals stat line here. Like Pasquantino's only got 7 hits and 34 at bats, no home runs, 5 RBIs at a 206 average. Caglione 286 average, so he's hitting a little bit better, but he still hasn't hit the home run either. And you would think Caglione would have one by now too. Well, he swings the bat in Pasquantino. Salvi's still having a Salvi type season, but he's only hitting 206. He's got 2 home runs, but he's only hitting 206. Bobby Witt Jr., you would think he'd normally be up in 280, 290 by now. He's only hitting 242 right now for the Royals. And he's got 5 walks, 8 strikeouts right now. So Bobby Witt's not seeing the ball like he normally does either. For them, Michael Garcia is continuing his WBC MVP streak with a 333 average right now and leading the team in RBIs at 7. So good for Michael Garcia. But the other bats that I mentioned, like Pasquantino and Caglione and Witt, need to step up in that lineup because their pitching staff wasn't that great to begin with. Seth Lugo is, their best pitcher by far right now. Reagan's has got 13 strikeouts. So looking at the Royals, they're not the most horrible spot right now at 4-5, like we said. But Lugo has a 1.59 ERA. But the other starters are Cameron also has a sub-2 ERA right now. Noah Cameron also has a sub-2 ERA. But the other starters have Michael Wacha has a shutout in his first 6 innings so far for the Royals too. So I have to take that in grain of salt. But Bubic and Reagan's are all Reagan's at 3.6 and Bubic at 4.09. It's not great ERA stats there for the Royals. So like I just said, the pitching is what you kind of expect, like a mixed bag for Kansas City, but the offense is what you predicate them on, and they're not living up to expectations. So that's why I consider them one of the most disappointing teams early on in the first couple weeks. Obviously, Boston, we've talked about Boston numerously.
I think the easy pick for worst disappointment so far to start the season is Boston, right? Yeah. But we've already sort of talked about them, and sort of their struggles. It seems like they can't pick a struggle. One day their offense will be struggling while their pitching is doing great. The next day, their offense will finally get it together and their pitching will decide to blow it. Third day, their offense and their starting pitching will be fine, and then their bullpen will blow it. It's like pick a struggle,
Yeah.
But one other team I wanted to highlight is actually out in the NL West.
Yes.
And that would be the San Diego Padres.
Yes.
And I was looking at their offensive stats. And of course, their stats are suddenly looking a little bit better after having played the Red Sox. It seems like anybody that plays us, suddenly you're looking better than you were. But I was looking at their for example, just their batting average alone. Outside again, these numbers went up since I last looked at them. Coming into the game today, the only player batting above 200 for them that was a regular starter was Laureano. Since that time today, Merrill had a pretty good game for them. Machado got himself up a little bit. Tatis got himself up a little bit. Yeah. They're still all 250 or below.
Yeah.
But coming into there, having the entire team below the Mendoza line, is certainly not going to win you many games.
And that's why they were 4-5. They're 4-5 now. It's just
and that's winning 2 or 3 from Boston too. I mean, if they were playing somebody else, they'd probably look even worse right now. Exactly. I mean, their pitching obviously hasn't been much better. Vasquez has been a little bit of a surprise for them, I guess. But
Miller's been their bright spot when he's been in for the Padres on the mound. I think if you look at Mason Miller's line for this season, I'll go ahead and do that real quick. He's got two saves, I think. The
4
one
saves now.
Yeah, is it 4 saves?
Because he got them against the Red Sox the last couple games. Yeah.
So it's 4 saves. Sorry, you're right. Okay, so if you have 4 saves, all 4 wins, ironically enough, have been saves from Mason Miller. Let's see here too with Miller. He's got 11 Ks, hasn't given up a run yet, earned run yet. And in a 22.8 Ks per 9 rate right now. Dude has been the best. I think he's been the best closer out of anybody right now. And it's, I think it might be the new entrants giving them that extra boost a little bit. I mean,
absolutely.
While we have that, I don't know if we got into it last week. What are your thoughts on the new Mason Miller and Korn song?
I love it. I think it's awesome. I mean, I'm not somebody who always pays that much attention to entrance songs per se.
Yeah.
But I think the one exception is the closer, right? Because it's such a high pressure situation. And you having, an iconic walk-up song just gives not just the player. I mean, the player, obviously, you want to get your blood flowing and pumping with it, but the crowd too.
Yes,
you want that crowd to be in on it, and I think that's what it does for Miller. And remember the days of Mariano Rivera. We still talk about
Sandman.
Enter the Sandman, as his entrance song, right? And some of the greats have had that iconic level of entrance song, and so I love it personally.
I do too. I love the thing is too, like obviously Edwin Diaz had the Narcos trumpets song for the longest time. Duran's, I like Duran's because
I was just about to mention Duran.
Because Duran's is actually a mix for him specifically.
Mhm.
I think it was like a couple Latin people in Pitbull actually made the song for him specifically, which is awesome. And then with the lights and everything now in Philly, how Philly did it and has done it with the light show there that they do and the red lights and the spider on the jumbotron. It's really cool. I do like Helsley's entrance now for Baltimore. When he's on for them, it's not as iconic as those four I just met, like those others we mentioned. But when I first saw Miller's entrance when he came out earlier to see, like, dude, I was like, Korn of all people to do Korn, a guy that throws 104 and paints 104 too. Like, that's
100%. Oh, I love it. I love it, and I'm glad it's the Padres too. Because who can fully hate the Padres? Like, I'm sure some Dodgers fans hate the Padres because division, whatever. Maybe the Giants fans too. But I can't hate the Padres. So I love when they get like those iconic moments and stuff.
Well, I think for me, when you look at I like the hitter walk up songs. I like that's the thing. When you look at some of the hitter walk up songs, like Gunner's Sweet Escape, Gwen Stefani, like you can jam out. Like Baltimore fans always jam out to Sweet Escape every time he comes up for play. And my favorite moment with a hitter walk up. Remember Bryson Stott's grand slam against the Marlins in the playoffs a couple of years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone was doing okay. Like they this place. Yeah, everyone was singing that so loud in Citizens Bank.
100%.
And that moment was crazy when you look at it. So we'll also probably get another content out on that too. But
for sure.
I want to do that because that'll be a fun little thing, little 10-minute, 15, 20-minute thing. We can talk about some of the best all-time walk-up music and everything, like different closers and hitters. But it is that time, unfortunately.
It is.
Talk about baseball. We got to wrap it up, I think, here.
Oh, exactly. I think both of us could talk for hours on baseball, honestly. But this has been an incredible show. As always, thank you so much for joining, Brandon. Those of you watching, thank you. I hope you had a great Easter, and thank you for joining us on this Easter Sunday. I hope you guys are enjoying the baseball season so far. Make sure to check us out. Our Twitter handles are on the screen. Sorry, X handles are on the screen right now. But make sure to check out just Total Apex Sports in general. Got great content coming out every single day. Not just about baseball, but about every sport. And you could pop over my end, the Total Apex Entertainment. Also, for those of you interested in that, we've got great content coming out for you every single day. But I think that just about does it. So from Brandon and Chris at Total Apex Sports, we are wishing you a great rest of your Sunday. Take care, y'all.
Yep, and I just wanted to shout out real quick, Tuesday show. Stay tuned for Tuesday's show. We're gonna have some fun on that for the sports segment and stuff like that. We'll have some fun. Also, stay tuned to the wrestling show. If you want to watch a little bit preview for next week's podcast, they recorded a SmackDown review from Friday night. Yesterday, it got uploaded earlier this morning. Give that video some love. Nicholas and Jerry put some passion into that. So that's all I'm going to say with that. But yeah, like Chris said, hopefully y'all have the rest of y'all's Easter. Thank you for having me on again, as always. But yeah, I'm going to say peace out. Let's have fun the rest of the season in MLB. So
100%.
Peace out.
Peace out.